I am Ray, and I am here to show you the greatest mistakes that spiritual seekers make. Now, the first thing we want to understand is energy. Energy. Now, the quality of energy can be broken down into two categories. There is masculine energy, feminine energy. Masculine energy can be broken down into two parts, masculine energy broken down into one part. The body. The feminine is broken down into two parts. The mind and the spirit. Feminine is the source of new creation, so we have the body, the mind, and the spirit. Hopefully this is making sense. Another way you could look at this is you have positive, neutral, and negative. Masculine, you would have positive. Feminine, you would have negative. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. It's just the quality of the energy. Internal, external. Lastly, you have what we know as the four elements. You have earth. You have water. You have fire. You have air. A great mess. Let us clean this up, shall we? You like my drink? Let's do this. Here we have the density of energy. Down here you have the earthliness. So we'll do earth. Here you have the spirit. The lower you go, the more dense the energy. The higher you go, the less dense your energy. So you have water, fire, air, earth, mind, body, spirit. I'm going to change these two words right here. Physical reality, non-physical. The inner world and the outer world. Makes sense. Intuitively, we will all understand this, because this is inherent in our very existence. All of these elements are spread out through every inch of the universe, and it's simply the universe is built on numbers. Number one, wholeness. Number two, duality, masculine, feminine, dark, light, hot, cold. Three, mind, body, spirit, solid, liquid, gas, past, present, future. Number four, the four elements: earth, water, fire, air, geometry, and numbers. These are but the expressions of these different numbers. Now, we all have a certain set of characteristics that are unique to us. This is a combination of nature, what we are born with biologically, and nurture, the conditioning we experience from our outer environment through our life. Now, you see, this is why when you look into astrology, a lot of the things, even though you don't know how they make sense, it seems to make sense for you. This is why astrology seems accurate. It's because astrology is designed to pick up on these patterns, and everybody is born with them. So for instance, I am a Cancer. I was born during the summertime, and I am also a water being. Cancer is the element of water. It is a crab. My natural tendency is to go with the flow, to be laid back, to be neutral. Whereas you might have somebody who is a fire type, who is very fiery, explosive, perhaps passionate, struggles with anger. You might have an airy type who is a bit avoidant, non-attached, earthly type, very grounded, etc. Now, with the spiritual types, we get attached to this half of the sphere, and we tend to be weak in the bottom half. In other words, we reject material and physical reality for the higher, more spiritual ideal. Here you have the infinite potential, and here you have finite actuality. As a spiritual person who enjoys the infinite abundance of imagination, we will naturally reject the limitations of the body. That is because where we are most comfortable, where we feel most natural, is in the realm of possibilities. And so, people who are stuck in their imagination, stuck in the inner reality, they will have trouble engaging in the practical daily actions because it's not sexy. That is sexy. We love infinite abundance, infinite imagination. We do not like the harsh truth of reality. That is the mundane, the monotonous, the daily grind. You could say, generally speaking, there are two types of people. There are people with high potential and there are people with low potential. These people are naturally talented, they're naturally skilled, gifted. It seems like they got the lucky hand in life. These people, less lucky, they have to struggle, they have to strive, and they have a much more difficult time. But life is fair. High potential people have low actualization. Low potential people have high actualization. These are the practical people who take action. These are the impractical people who do not take action, but rather live in their imagination. One problem that these kinds of people will face is called the Peter Pan syndrome. In psychology, it is called puer aeternus, or eternal child. And that is where we enjoy so much the land of imagination, and we never exactly are able to ground ourselves in practical daily life. In other words, we have great dreams, we have great ambitions, but we have difficulty engaging in the discipline, in the routine, in the habits, the actions that will allow us to actualize our potential. Whereas these people, they have less big dreams, less big ideas, but because they engage in practical action, they are more likely to actualize the potential that they do have. Now, whatever you are weak in, whatever is your weakness, you will project that onto other people with negative judgments. So for instance, let us say type 1, type 2. Type 1, you might say, type 1 let's call the spiritual people. Type 2, let's call the earthly people. Again, nothing wrong with either, nothing right with either. They are both equal, but different expressions of the same one energy. Spelled that wrong. Earthly people will judge the spiritual people and say that they are ungrounded, impractical, head up in the clouds, dreamers. You get the idea. The spiritual people will tell the earthly people materialistic, animalistic, unimaginative, let's just say uncreative. I think you get the idea. Both people will project onto others their weaknesses. So you will know your weaknesses by what traits in other people trigger you or get on your nerves. And this is called inner projection or shadow projection. And this is a great way to learn about yourself, learn about your own weaknesses, and learn about which aspects of your energy you need to work on. Now, if you do not incorporate the opposite energy into your life, you will always experience trouble, problems, and much difficulty in success. We all know the archetypal spiritual person who is 1, slow, 2, not grounded in reality, 3, very cliche. When you hear them talk, it sounds like, how do I even describe this? Kind of like they're retarded.
Hi, I identify as a spiritual being. I'm a highly emotional person who justifies any of my actions as the way things were meant to be. So if I ever cross your boundaries or fail to meet your needs at all, I'll probably gaslight you. I did ayahuasca and I'm convinced I have no ego, which makes it increasingly difficult for me or anyone to hold me accountable, which really helps me live in the moment. If I feel a connection with you, I'll swear you're my twin flame or a soulmate, and when things don't work out, I'll say you were probably a karmic mirror for me to learn something from. But I won't. The truth is, I'm like the average human, who rationalizes most of their experiences to justify their selfish interests. The difference is, I hold an identity that makes it increasingly difficult for me to see how I'm responsible for any of this.
Without the practical application of spiritual ideas, they are not worth all that much. And so a lot of the times we get attracted to these kind of philosophies. And we latch on to these spiritual ideas because they sound nice and we like them. But when it comes to actually living these teachings, we fall short. And what this might express itself in is somebody who claims to be spiritual, but in their daily life, they're always struggling with some kind of problems, and they get frustrated and irritated. And the whole spiritual thing is a facade. It's just a mask that they wear. It's what people would call the spiritual ego. Another great danger is not being grounded in your body. Think about, for instance, the Catholic Church. What is supposed to be a pillar of morality and virtue. And yet, one of the main things that they are known for is diddling little boys. I'm not going to draw that. Why is this? It is because your millions and millions, if not billions of years of evolutionary instinct do not care about your silly little moral beliefs. You cannot repress your instincts. You cannot claim to be above the physical reality. You cannot claim, I am spiritual, I reject the physical. It will not work. Try it. See what happens. Don't try it. You will live ungrounded. And what will happen is if you repress your instincts, they will not go away. They will simply go into your unconscious or your shadow, and they will ruin your life without your conscious awareness. You do not get to be spiritual without also being physical, because you are equally an animal as you are a spiritual being. So if you, as a spiritual ego, try to reject physical reality, you are in for a very rough ride, my friend. Now, the reason that we can fall into the trap of the spiritual ego is simply because of identity. That is what ego is. Ego is personal identity. So if we make the claim that, yes, I am spiritual, this is who I am, and we begin to paint our environment to reflect this new identity in buying crystals, in, buying sound bowls, incense, and essential oils, tarot cards, whatever spiritual people do. Let me know in the comments. The more we reinforce ego, the more ego, not only runs our life, but ruins our life as well. Now, to rid ourselves of this monster, all we have to do is embrace our humanity. One of the most spiritual things you can do is be human. You see, life is messy. Being human is messy. It is difficult. And when you can learn to love this aspect of yourself, you are on the right track. You see, because all the problem comes in rejection of the physical, of the material. If you are somebody who says, I reject material things because I am above material things. I'm above the money and the cars and the fancy things. These things, they are below me. They are for those earthly people. You are under the spell of the spiritual ego. There is nothing wrong with the physical reality. The physical reality is not worse than the spiritual reality. But things must be in their proper place. What this means is this. Gotta get a new pen. Gotta get a new board. The inner world consists of the infinite, of the eternal. The outer world consists of the finite and the temporary. All is one reality, but things must be placed in their proper order. That is, as Jesus said, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and then everything else will be added on to you. As you go back to the source within you, you return to the non-dual state. The non-dual state is the totality of everything, the totality of all existence, all potential, infinite potential. And as you move outwards, you enter in to duality, the world of 10,000 things. Both realities are the same. Here is a good example. If you've ever seen the Pink Floyd album, or if you've ever heard of what is called a prism, you will understand this very easily. Prism is a pyramid. You see, you have, well, this is a white light. So you have light. This is a white light beam. Singular white light beam directed to the top of the prism. I hope you can see this. And out the other end comes all the colors of the rainbow. And so we exist in between these two polarities. The infinite and eternal white light, that is the source, that is the kingdom of heaven, infinite and eternal potential, and the world of 10,000 things, which are all the colors of the rainbow. I should have used different colors. There's a pink one, there's a green one, whatever that is. Spiritual people are too attached to the white light and disown the colors. But we have to understand that the source is infinite potential. It is not actuality. And so, as divine creators of our reality, here we are. Here's a person, kind of. And here is this person's third eye. Let's just call it their mind. Here you have infinite potential, and here you have the outer world. So we as divine creators take infinite potential and we bring it into the present moment. And then we take that infinite potential and actualize it. And that manifests in our outer reality. If you do not take action in the outer world, you cannot manifest potential, or you cannot actualize any of your potential. And in the same light, if you just take so much action without tapping into the infinite potential, you will not be aligned with the source of all that is. Therefore, your ability to manifest and create your reality will be slim. Therefore, low potential, high actuality. High potential, low actuality. What I teach is a holistic approach. That is, one shall not be too attached to one side or the other, but in fact incorporate all the different energies. So for instance, if you are an earthly type, this video is about spiritual people. We'll start with spiritual. Each of the energies has a weakness and they have strengths. Let's do the elements first. So these are the more spiritual elements. This is the physical element. This is the doorway in between. If you are an air type, you will be strong against earth. If you are an air type, you will be neutral against water. If you are an air type, you will be weak against fire. If you are a fire type, you will be strong against air. If you are a fire type, you will be neutral toward earth and weak toward water. If you are a water type, you will be strong against fire, neutral against air, weak against earth. If you are an earth type, you will be strong against water, neutral against fire, and weak against air. Now, what does this mean practically? Let me use my own example. I am a water type, water dominant. So that means my weakness is earth. What does this mean? Imagine a river, a flowing river. In order for a river to exist, it needs two things. It needs water. It needs boundaries. It needs earth. Without earth, the water will dissipate and it will not be useful. A river cannot form. And if there is earth but no water, it will be dry and barren. That is imbalance. So practically speaking, in our daily life, one problem that I have had is being ungrounded. If you are to go with the flow, but you don't have a specific direction you are going in your life, you will drift. Earth is what gives you a foundation, it gives you direction, it gives you a pathway for the water to flow. And so if you are all water but no earth, you will drift to the lowest possible place. Water takes the path of least resistance. And so without earth, without being grounded, you will find yourself all the way to hell. Because that is the lowest point. In order for water to flow best, you must have structure, routine, habit, some discipline, direction, and vision. And at the same time, if you are earthly and you don't have enough water, you will be dry, meaning you will lose the passion of your life. You will not be tapped in, and you will not feel alive, but rather you will feel almost like a donkey or a mule, carrying a great burden for no reason, almost like a slave. You may work hard, you may do a lot, you may stay busy, but you really won't know why. Or perhaps it just will not have that much meaning for you. Let's just give a few more examples before we move on. If you are a fire type, you may be very passionate, but you will also have difficulty going with the flow. You will probably have difficulty being chill, relaxing, taking it easy. You will be sparky. You might be a bit anxious. You might be a bit on edge. You might always have to be doing something in order to not feel anxious. If a fire type can learn the way of water, they will become extremely balanced and extremely powerful. An air type is like fire, except without the passion. Air is the most feminine element of all. Fire is masculine, feminine, water is neutral, earth is masculine. So you might say that for most people, we come in two general categories. These are blueprints. Nobody actually fits these things perfectly. You have earth and fire types. You have water and air types. These are more feminine people. These are more masculine people. It does not matter whether you are born a male or female, we all have a combination of these energies. If we do not learn to incorporate the weak energies, then we will remain imbalanced and we will lack wholeness. For those on the inner path, which you may generally call the spiritual path, the inner path, the outer path, which is the path of earth and fire. Now I like to say these are two different paths. The path of water and air is the inner path, or what I call the spiritual journey. And the path of earth and fire is what I call the outer path, and the path of self-improvement. Both these paths are opposite in nature. They have opposite goals, which is what makes them so difficult to incorporate. If you are on this path, it becomes difficult to do this one. If you are on this path, it becomes difficult to embark on the inner journey. Because the rules are flipped. For instance, on the inner path, we are destined toward non-attachment, air, freedom, liberation. Whereas for the earth element on the outer path, we may see that as being concrete or actualized or set in our ways. In other words, earth is unchanging, air is changing all the time, which means that the inner path, both water and air, are very adaptable, whereas earth and fire, they are what you might call solid or final. It's hard to describe these characteristics, but I think that most of us, if not all of us, have some intuitive understanding of what these elements mean to us. So here is the trick, and I will just share how I have gone about this to make it the easiest to understand. And we won't be too detailed. Let's keep it simple. I am a spiritual person, or should I say, just a creative person. It's pretty much the same thing, but not exactly. I am a creative person, so I understand right off the bat. Let's just add water and air. Therefore, my weakness is being ungrounded, and because I am ungrounded, not able to be present with my body, rejecting limitation, rejecting practicality, the mundane. I like the brilliance and the magnificence of imagination, of big dreams. I do not like daily mundane tasks, nor do I like having to live in a limited body. And so I am naturally a dreamer and cut off from physical material reality. Therefore, I know it will be difficult for me to actualize my potential. I do not need to know the specifics of what I need to do. I only need to incorporate the opposite energy. I need to use my strengths to develop my weaknesses, and in doing so, I will become whole. Now, I have spent a long time doing this. Figured that out a long time ago, and so here I am. In fact, you could say I've even had a 180, whereas I do not like fantasy. No fantasy. I want reality. Instead of fantasizing about lofty ideas and big visions, instead, we take the infinite potential. We take the infinite potential and we ground it into actuality, into the practical daily steps that will lead toward this vision, toward this dream life. So, the dream is important, the imagination is important, but instead of staying in the land of fantasy, and dreams. We dream not to dream, but to actualize the dream. And that means we have to understand what are the daily habits, what are the practical things that we have to do to actualize this dream and to make it a reality. And the simple ways we begin this process and incorporating the opposite energies is that we get into our body, exercise, diet, breath work, anything that grounds us in our body. We have to build habits that are aligned with our vision. So not just any habits, but habits that touch upon our soul's purpose, the vision in which we are given. So that means, what is your routine? Do you drift through your daily life, or are your daily actions specific? Are they designed toward reaching a certain goal? Do not fall into the trap of drifting, and do not fall into the trap of being busy. You want to take action, but you do not want to take mindless action. You want to take inspired action that is aligned with your vision. If you take too much action and become a busybody, you will go nowhere. If you only focus on your vision and do not take action, you will go nowhere. Now, perhaps the most important part, and also the most simple, we are all instruments of God, and our life is the song. And what determines whether or not our song, our life is in harmony, is whether or not we are in tune. So you have to ask yourself this one question, or two questions, I guess. Are your strings too tight? Or are your strings too loose? These should be flipped. What does this mean? It means your energy. Again, spirit, matter, density. If you are too loose, if you are too chaotic, you will feel lethargic. You will not have motivation. You will not feel inspired. You are more prone to depression, lack of direction. You will know intuitively which side you fall upon. Chaos, order. You are either too chaotic or too orderly, too uptight. Spiritual people tend to be too loose. That is why people make fun of spiritual people for being very slow, for being all over the place, for being ungrounded. Spiritual people have the most difficult time with structure, with routine, and with discipline. Whereas these people down here, structure, discipline, routine, it comes natural to them. But they lack sometimes the flexibility and the adaptability of the people up there, the water and air types. These people become too rigid, too stuck in their ways. These people do not have ways to be stuck in, which means they are not concrete enough. Get it? Concrete, earth. So as a spiritual person, one who probably seeks to be not attached from ego, these people live by ego. These people live by no ego. The problem is that if you don't have an ego, you have no center of gravity. You remain ungrounded. You want an ego. You do not want to be identified with your ego. Which means as a spiritual person, you have to get clear on who you want to be and where you want to go and what kind of life that you want to live. And then you begin implementing the practical actions that will lead you to this dream life, to this dream vision. Otherwise, you will stay stuck in the land of make-believe and you will never actualize the potential that is within you. I am Ray. Please let me know your questions in the comments down below, and I may answer you in a future video. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.